we're going to get into everything today. And yesterday was a very frustrating day for the first time in a long time for the Eagles. We haven't had one of these days in a long time.
Haven't had an L in a long time. Since what? Early in the year?
Since September.
August, September?
September, Hugh Douglas. Yeah, yesterday we had our first one. And look, Hugh, there's a lot of blame to go around. There's a lot of frustration to go around. Big picture, did yesterday ruin the Eagles season? No. There's a lot of football left to be played. Let's hope Jalen Hurts gets himself back very quickly here, Hugh. But yesterday did knock their chances at the 1 seed almost down to nothing. They still have a very, very small chance, but it's minuscule chance for the 1 seed. It made things more challenging for the rest of this season. It opened up a Pandora's box on what life is like without Jalen Hurts. And for the first time, and don't you dare say I told you so, for the first time since September, the defense, which has been amazing this year, faltered. Hugh, let's react here. 215-592-9494. Commanders 36. Eagles 33. Hugh, what hit you the most? Obviously, the Jalen Hurts injury and then him leaving changed the whole football game.
The quarterback for the Commodores, man, he's fast.
He's a lot. He's a lot. I mean,
and it was one of those things, because we talked about this. We talked about this Friday, and I talked about the fact that, going into this game, Jaden Daniels the Eagles hadn't really had to spy quarterbacks. You talk about the caliber of Lamar Jackson and what they didn't do with him,
sure,
and all these other things. So I didn't think that was a big deal to go out there and have to spot a quarterback. It was yesterday. I saw a lot of undisciplined play on a team, on a defense that normally plays pretty disciplined throughout the whole year. They've been pretty solid up front as far as with their lane integrity and things of that nature. Yesterday, you saw guys running around quarterbacks, not staying on the same level behind him. You can't do that with a quarterback of his caliber. Now, this is not an excuse, but I feel like in the first game, because he was hurt, the quarterback was hurt, Jaden Daniels, that the defense took for granted his ability to run. And I was just sitting here talking to Seth, and he can run. Like, he's fast. And for me, I listened to a lot of the game on the radio. Shout out to the guy that I met at the AT&T store that told me that if the Commodores win today, he was going to call and talk trash. He's probably going to be calling because he's a Commodores fan.
No.
But, yeah, it was one of those games, man, where they came to play. You got to give them props. I know everybody's saying, we should have won that game. Yeah, it looked like it was skewing that way.
Yeah.
Should have won that game. Quarterback gets knocked out. It was unfortunate, but hey, tip your hat off to the Commodores, man. They played well.
Yeah, well, the Eagles still should have won the game. Look, the Eagles forced 5 turnovers yesterday. Over the last 10 years, teams to force 5 turnovers in a game, 71-5. You ready for this? Last 20 years, 235-18. You force 5 turnovers, you win the football game. That's the NFL. It didn't happen yesterday. 215-592-9494. All right, Hugh, let's address the elephant in the room, but I'm going to address it in a different way. Yes, obviously losing Jalen Hurts changed that football game. Obviously. Without him, it was not as easy for them to run their offense the way they typically do, and the run game certainly didn't feel as
zesty.
Zesty, sure, we'll use that word.
Might not be a good word, but
you know what? That's fine. We're off and running now. But, guys, I don't think they lost the game because of Kenny Pickett. I thought Kenny Pickett, for what he was asked to do, what he did, was fine. Like, did I think he played great? No, he's a fringe starter, mostly probably a backup now the rest of his career. I thought he was fine.
He was decent.
Yeah, he was decent. I thought he made some throws. He threw the touchdown to AJ. He hits DeVonta in the hands, which should have finished the game. The Eagles lost that game yesterday. Yes, this part of the story is that Jalen went out, clearly, and they missed some of the things he does well, especially with his legs. But I thought they lost the game, number one, because their defense, which I sat here last week and said is one of the best I've ever seen, stunk in the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, they allowed drives yesterday. In the fourth quarter of that game of 61, 87, 57. They allowed 22 points in the fourth quarter yesterday. That's losing football. They lost yesterday because their discipline was terrible. I know everyone's mad at the refs for the CJ-GJ thing. He's got to be smarter, Hugh. If you already have a personal foul, you got to be towing that line on what you're doing out there because they missed him when he went out of that game. They had 10 penalties in the game. They had 12 men on the field on a touchdown pass by the Commanders. So their discipline was all over the place. Jalen Carter also had a big penalty. Their special teams yesterday cost them in a major way. I mean, the Commanders' average field position in the second half was like the 40-yard line. Every kickoff, they're running the ball back to the 40-yard line.
Field position.
They couldn't cover anything. So the defense stunk yesterday late in the game. The discipline was terrible. Their special teams was bad. And, Hugh, I'll even put this above the Pickett thing. DeVonta Smith's got to catch the ball. I mean, that game is over.
That's money. That's a play that you make routine. And I know, you have to move on. You can't live in the past. But it's unfortunate. There was a lot of stuff yesterday that happened that you could point at that lost this game for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep.
I'll say this, though. It's not as bad as it feels. It's not the end of the world. And I know in college football, they say you rather lose early than lose late. In this situation, I think it just puts everything in perspective. Like, number one, the biggest thing I thought about, and I just take you through my thought process a little bit watching that game. Well, listening to the game, because I was in the car. And when Kenny Two Gloves came in, I didn't know Jalen was that hurt because, there was a lot of speculation on the sideline what was going on.
Well, no one did. I mean, because he went out, right? Then they put him in the medical tent. I don't know if you saw it, Hugh. Maybe you've seen it since. So they checked him out initially, and then he kind of came back and put his helmet on and gave a thumbs up to the referee. Like, he thought he was fine. Obviously, Hugh, when it comes to this kind of stuff, it's an independent doctor. The doctor's going to tell him. He's not going to tell them.
Yeah. So as it progressed through it, I was like, okay, maybe they just want to see how Kenny looks on this drive. And then, he threw the touchdown to AJ and things like that. And then as the game progressed, then you saw that it was a lot more serious. And then that's when the game started to change because if you noticed, the Commodores, and I know they're the Commodores, people call me, it's the Commanders. No, it's the Commodores. It's still the Commodores. I know what I'm doing. When the Commodores figured out Jalen wasn't coming back in the game, it changed everything, man. Like now you can just pin years back and go because Kenny Two Gloves ain't taking off running. And if he does, we're fast enough to catch him. That's the mentality that you have. You saw on a lot of plays. This is something that I haven't seen happen as I talk with my hands, people, and y'all can't see it, but just imagine, follow me on this. I haven't seen all year long the backside defensive end when the play is going away from him take such a hard pursuit angle to run the running back down when he's trying to pick a hole.
Yep.
That happened a lot yesterday. I heard that a lot, and I'm like, damn, they haven't been able to do that all year. And you know why? Because normally when you have Jalen back there and Jalen's running that RPO as I do hand gestures that you can't see, Jalen rides the running back and he has the ability to pull it out. The quarterback, the defensive end, normally has to slow play that. He has to keep his shoulders square and make sure. Don't laugh at that, Kyle.
No, I'm not laughing at you.
It's not you.
You gotta keep your shoulders square and make sure that the quarterback doesn't come on a naked boot. And when Kenny Pickett's out there, Kenny Two Gloves is not that fast.
No.
So I could, as a defensive end in my prime, I could run down there and see that. And if he tries to take it out and run, you can run Kenny down.
It made the run game more complicated. It did. 215-592-9494. Let's hear from Nick Sirianni yesterday, commenting on what happened and the sloppy nature of his football team.
Just curious what your biggest takeaway is from it.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I have to be able to watch the tape and tell you everything what happened, but just sloppy. Sloppy with penalties, sloppy with too many men on the field, sloppy with our fundamentals. And when you play a good football team like we played today, and you're sloppy regardless of how many turnovers you force, it's going to be hard to win. And I think, what I said to those guys is like when it's sloppy with every piece of that, that's always going to be on me as the head coach.
Well, they were sloppy yesterday. Yeah, so look, the quarterback situation obviously changed the game. But did Kenny Pickett light it up? No. Did he play terrible? No. They scored 26 points with him in the football game. With the defense that we have here, that should have been enough yesterday.
Should have been.
I mean, they allowed 22 fourth-quarter points, and they were undisciplined. This is the stuff with it's not Sirianni's fault that his players are undisciplined, but also he runs an undisciplined ship. He's a hothead on the sidelines, and sometimes his players are. That frustrated me yesterday. Let's also hear from DeVonta Smith, and you never want to put a game on one moment, one player, but man, he catches that ball 99.5 out of 100 times. He's got sure hands. He just dropped it yesterday. Here's DeVonta after the game, taking accountability for what would have probably ended the game.
I just dropped the ball. I ain't gonna beat myself up over it. It's life, part of the game. And I made all the tough catches today, and then the easy one I had, I dropped. It is what it is. Trust the game. Ain't nobody else's fault but mine.
You able to move on from this and obviously not let it weigh down on your shoulders too much?
That game over with. Ain't nothing I can do about it now.
Was it one of those where you just looked it in, or you?
I just dropped the ball.
Okay.
Ain't no teaching on it. Just catch the ball. It's simple.
Do you like that in that moment they go to you?
Yeah, for sure. I was calling for it, and when they put it in my hand, I got to make the damn play.
I mean, I like the accountability.
Me too.
He said charges to the game. He's not lying, and you could tell at that moment he's frustrated with the way that the outcome of the game was. But he's right. You have to live with that, and you have to get ready for the next one. That was a hard pill for him to swallow. You could tell he cares. I don't want anybody out there to think that DeVonta doesn't care, because he did. He's just handling that the best way that he can under the circumstances.
And I still trust him. I would throw him the ball again in that spot next week and the week after and the week after. He makes that catch 99 out of 100 times. He just dropped it. And look, the game's over if he catches it. So he catches it, Hugh. I think there's 2:02 on the clock when the ball drops.
Yeah.
He catches it. It goes to the warning 2 minutes. They have one timeout. The Eagles could take 3 knees, and the clock goes down to 35 seconds. And then there's no chance the Commanders. I mean, I know they threw a Hail Mary earlier this season, but realistically, the game ends if DeVonta catches that football. 215-592-9494. All right, let's react. Little Blame Game Monday. I forgot how to do this. We haven't done one of these since September. What's the biggest reason the Eagles lost yesterday? Hugh, what's your official take on this? I go the defense. The defense lost the game.
Yeah, the defense. You know,
the defense lost the game.
The defense didn't lose the game?
allowed.
No, I wonder why, if it's a necessity today, if they lost the game.
See, we weren't going to be petty. We were going to let that.
After a loss?
No, we was going to let that go. We was going to let that go. I wasn't going to say a word
I
about
told
it.
you so in the meeting today.
No, I didn't.
Oh, wait a second.
No.
As soon as
Like
we
3
sat down, he sat there like I told you so, Douglas.
No, I wasn't talking about the defense. I was talking about the mentality of the Commodores. I remember, since we're here,
Oh, boy. Here
since
we go.
you opened the
Here
door,
we go.
I tried to tell y'all Friday that you should never underestimate your opponent, and I got called plant-based, and to all the callers that called, they want to call me mean and hurtful names because they talk about, you're giving it too much respect.
Hughes hunches.
No, I'm just saying.
What happened to your Bears yesterday?
No, I'm just
got
saying.
rocked.
They got dragged. Yeah, I knew it was bad for me with the Bears when they were already talking about going on vacation. But you know how it is when you have a take, you gotta even if it's bad, you gotta lean all the way into that thing, man. And then when you find out that you were wrong, then you make excuses.
Yeah, you ignore it. You run away.